hello, my beautiful guys and dolls, and welcome to an episode of Before the Curtain. I'm your host, Abbie Campbell, and we are here to discover the passion behind the performance. Artists of all backgrounds will share their stories about what it takes to create, survive, and thrive in the competitive world of entertainment. Finding inspiration in their journeys, we aim to bring you everything that happens before the curtain. Today, my friends, we have a guest that is dear to my heart. In 2013, he swapped the beaches of Oahu for the bright lights of Las Vegas to work as a full-time DJ. His open format mixes, lively personality, and ability to read the crowd have made him known across the industry. Being a dancer at heart, his work is not just behind the booth. Interacting, engaging, and dancing with his audience allow for his talents to be fully showcased as a DJ, MC, and entertainer to culminate a complete, encompassing experience. He is currently a resident DJ at the Downtown Fremont Street Experience, Swingers at Mandalay Bay, and does frequent pop-ups locally and abroad. In 2016, he created Livin events as a mobile DJ company dedicated to private and special events, but he is here with us today to share his story of creating his company, along with the exciting news of a rebrand, ready to take on large-scale productions. Without further ado, please help me welcome to the mic the immaculate Vin Duong, aka DJ Livin.
Yay!
Hi, Vin.
That was awesome. Oh my goodness, we gotta get you on to do more MC work as well.
I'm down. You let me know. I'll be there. So, what brought you to Vegas? Was it just like I'm gonna go for it, or was there a specific gig that you were like, I'm going to Vegas now?
Yeah, I always say there's like multitude of reasons why I moved from Hawaii to Las Vegas, and it was one of those things where like a lot of whenever I tell anyone, they always say like, why would you ever move from Hawaii? Like, why would you go to like Vegas and stuff? And there's a lot of reasons. So I'll go and say like one of them was I was DJing for a company for several years. And so there's always those moments where like, okay, what's next? Like, what's the next steps? How do we go ahead and, advance and do something else and create more opportunities, right? I was also, although I lived in Hawaii for like a good portion of my life, I was born in the mainland, what we call the mainland, right? So I was born in Philadelphia, actually. So, and experiencing, a larger place to live, there was a sense of island fever as well. So there's that and having to, feel like this is all I got here, right? So it's that and wanting to kind of see a little bit more out in the world. That was two. And the third one is relationships. There's that. Mm-hmm. So I was going through something, on a personal note, and I was like, okay, what's one easy way to get over that? It's to travel, it's to just create more experiences for yourself and also physically distance yourself literally from it. So yeah, that's what brought me out here. And I remember it was around July 4th, 2013. And I remember like any of my travels, I always book it like 3 days before or like literally 12 hours before. And it's one of those cases where right at like either the end of June or top of July, I just said, all right, I'm going to go to Vegas. And so I went to a Goodwill, bought like 3 luggages, filled them up with all my clothes, sold my television, I had a video game system, I sold my Xbox, sold my car, all in the span of a few days. And then I just contacted one of my friends that lived in Vegas already. He's like, hey, I'm going to crash at your place. And he was like, okay. So that's kind of what happened. And then I was already in town. The first time I got on the plane, and then I got off the plane, I should say, I looked outside. I saw the little heat waves like going up. I was like, oh no. And I think it was already like 110 degrees already out in July. And I was like, I think I already almost regretted my decision right then and there. So anyways, yeah, that's what brought me out here.
And what was Vegas already in the back of your mind?
Yeah, so the decision itself, I do remember like when I already made, I guess consciously already, all right, I'm going to leave Hawaii, right? I felt like I had a good run there. I felt like I had a lot of fun memories. A lot of my closest friends obviously have family there. So I was looking at like the different choices. I think a lot of times what we do is we we write down, I wrote down like maybe 4 or 5 cities, right? I think one of them was San Diego, Los Angeles, and California, both of them. And then I was thinking about Seattle. For some reason, I do like the Pacific Northwest. And then I think that was like the main 3. Then Las Vegas. I thought about New York as well. Like it's one of those things. I've been to New York several times, and I was like, oh my God, I love the hustle and bustle. And then I think logistically, it just comes down to like why everybody moves to Vegas is that it's an easier transition on the financial side, right? Like you could find a place for a lot more affordable. I would say a lot more affordable back then, not so much nowadays. But you could be able to find a spot. Entertainment's right around the corner. As a DJ, already a DJ, there's a lot of work out there as well. So I felt like a seamless transition. If I wanted to kind of move anywhere else, I could be able to do that, which I did for a little bit. But yeah, like that's why a lot of Islanders move out to Vegas. I think it doesn't feel too overwhelming as a California would, right? You don't have to feel that you're driving in 2 hours or 3 hours of traffic per day. When you move out here, you're already kind of in a small city in essence, but with big city amenities, with the hotels and everything like that. So that's why I did that. And then also, again, I was like looking at like the DJ landscape. I was like, okay, I think I can be able to fit myself in, especially as an event DJ. I think I didn't really see much out there that said that, okay, this was a little too much for me. So
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna actually jump back in your story timeline because and I know this because we're friends. When was it that because you were a dancer, when was it that you were like transitioning into being a DJ, or how did that come about?
Yeah. So my first love in the terms of the two things, that I love them both, but my first love was dancing. And I think it's one of those cases where as a kid, you're like a 5-6-year-old, you're watching Michael Jackson on TV, and then all of a sudden you're trying to do the moonwalk and you're trying to do the crotch grabs even as a kid. and you're just like, you're just watching it. Like it was the music video era, which I dearly miss. It's still something that like I used to go home and when I was a little older, even when I got a little older in 5th or 6th grade or 4th, 5th grade, I would just go home and be like, TRL, let's go see what the Backstreet Boys got going on right now. Let's see NSYNC got a new video. Oh, are they dancing in this one? And then I would record it. And then after that, I would try to like learn the choreography, right? So that was my first love. And I think that doing, loving to see movement and see if I could pick it up, and then spending all day at the house just trying to dance it and trying to reverse the choreography on the video, because the video you see it how you see it as an audience, but like you realize like, oh wait, I gotta flip it around because that's how they do it when you're doing it, right? So that's kind of the basis for my love for dance. And then when I moved to Hawaii, I think I was already kind of like, I felt like I already had rhythm, and it was the school dances. I used to always go out there and do freestyle dancing and would battle everybody at the school. I would go to other school dances. I would battle their best dancers. I'm not going to say I always won.
No, I love that so much.
I remember one time it would get it would get heated. Sometimes we'll go into these all age, dance parties and stuff like that for all the high schools. And then all of a sudden it was like every school had like their best dancers. And then I used to always try to jump in there and participate and see if I would win, right? But like kind of like, I guess you could say the transition from the dancing to DJ, right? To answer your question, it kind of happened, I would say, when I was getting into salsa, and that's a whole different thing as well. But that was kind of like where I think I was closer to either semi-pro or professional, was when I got into salsa. And I learned that in high school. And then I spent a few years training, and then I was taking classes pretty actively. And I had a dance partner as well. So we would compete and do different projects and performances. And then that's kind of when we got to the level where we were able to, be compensated for our shows, as well as for some of our classes that we would teach and workshops that we would do as well. So I was doing that, and then it actually did lead into my DJ career, because what happened is we had this show in this company, and then I remember like one day the dance instructor, or our dance team leader, I guess you could say, he came out and he was just like, all right, we have this new dancer here. I was like, okay, cool. And I met this guy. And then all of a sudden, we were supposed to be doing this show in LA. That show didn't happen, right? Because of such and such reasons, as typical, they pulled the plug on the show, but we still all went to the actual convention.
Okay,
right?
so you still went to LA.
Yeah, we still all went. And then essentially we just kind of went as, just attendees this time, right?
Mhm.
So, and then I ended up befriending one of the dance team members at the time, this new guy that literally just came in a few weeks, learned the choreography, and all of a sudden we became friends. And then he just walked in, and then we came back from that trip where we were supposed to perform, but we didn't. And he's like, hey, I own this DJ company. And I was like, do you want to do you ever want to just do some assistant work and stuff? And then that kind of became one of those things where I started to kind of tag along and started to learn the craft of setting up for other DJs, equipments and wires and a lot of bitch work, as we say, right? So that became one of those things. And at the same time, I was still kind of like going alongside with my salsa and my dance and my love for that dance. So I was kind of going alongside it. So as I was still training throughout the week, then on the weekends, I would go ahead and do roadie assistant work for the DJ. And then that became like a 1 or 2 year thing until I decided, or it was decided for me that I was like, I think you're ready. I think you can start, doing a few weddings and DJing a few bar mitzvahs. And because I think what happened was I was essentially picked because I was a dancer, because I had the ability to go out there and not be shy in front of people, right? And so as I was coming along, I realized like, I think like with this kind of DJ thing, I'm having a lot more consistent work at the time. So then I started kind of put more of my focus in that area of my life as my 20s were going around. So yeah, that's kind of what happened there.
All in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, this happened in Hawaii. We're doing some fun shows. I was doing some competitions still. And at the same time, I think as I was transitioning to not only doing more DJ work, but what was happening is that almost at the same time, I was also thinking about moving as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was moving, I think that the easiest thing is to go after where the work was, right? And I started to kind of fall more in love with DJing, because now it's not just putting on a show and doing a lot of talking on the microphone and leading line dances. For me, I started to really fall in love with the music and catching up on a lot of music and being able to put it all together as well. So yeah, the dancing took a little bit backseat, and as of now, I think for me, I still have a love for it, but more on more of appreciation side, and I realize not everybody's journey is the same, and not everybody's path is what you hope for, right? So I had dreams. No, don't worry. But I got dreams of. I had music videos. That was my thing. Again, I watched music videos as a kid, and that was what I wanted to do so much. Is to get into that. Is to get into music video, right? And I remember I did a few auditions in LA, and so yeah, no, I had that. That was like my thing, right? Like I guess because the movie that really popped up for my generation was like You Got Served and Stomp the Yard and stuff, right?
6.
Exactly. So it was the battle. It was like dressing in hip hop and showing out and stuff like that. And then I just realized, okay, cool. I got to work a lot harder at the time. I had to take more classes. Got to be better, right? Simply put. So as that realization was happening, then it was like, I'm actually pretty good in salsa, actually. So that's where things kind of shift. And then that's kind of how my life has been. Like, so once salsa was there and I spent a good amount of my time doing that, at the same time, I was realizing that I was like, I think I really enjoy this DJ thing as well. And you could do both at the same time, but I believe in a lot of these things that, when you put your 100% into it, and even more than that, then you get a lot more out of it. So at that point, like on a financial level, on a just like pure curiosity, I started to fall a little bit more into DJing. And so that kind of led to like where I am today. But as noted, I do still love the dance, and I still like to find ways to incorporate that into the gigs that I do. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
Oh my God. No, you're literally here to talk. You're literally here to share everything. And
I'm here to answer
it.
questions, Abbie. Like,
no, that
was a long answer for like a very, very, very easy question. Like, how do you like dancing and DJ? I was like, well, here's like 3 hours later.
Well, get comfy. That's the point, though. That's good. That's what the space is for you to talk and tell your story. So, when you moved to Vegas, what was it like for you to start DJing? Did it happen off the bat quickly?
No, actually, I had a job when I came out here. So I also had another job even when I was in Hawaii as well. So I was working retail and then I got transferred over here. So while I was working retail, they were, I was kind of hoping for like, a pay bump. I was hoping for like managerial roles and stuff like that. And it didn't happen at about 6 months. So then I ended up changing jobs and then somehow fell into working as a concierge at hotels. So I got that job at the Tropicana, which is, rest in peace.
Yep.
A lot of memories over there. So it was at the Tropicana, and funny thing about Tropicana as well is that is a spot that I did my first dance competition as well. So it's like
That's cute.
It's like a full circle thing. So it happened, that dance competition happened in like 2011, I think. And then about 2 years later, two and a half years later, I actually ended up working there as a hotel concierge, which is pretty interesting. So that's what I did. And then I got laid off. So after about a year or so of employment, they said that, hey, we're going to go ahead and release this position. And then just so it happens, I was kind of starting to tinker with like connecting with the industry, with the special events and wedding industry. I started to kind of go here and there, kind of like send a few emails here and there. And then all of a sudden it kind of just, it really just fell in line where all of a sudden I started getting work for it. And then now I never had any other job ever since, right? So I've always said when somebody asks me, like, when they're thinking about trying to go DJ full time, like you have two advices to really give them, right? Either, make sure you take care of yourself and make sure you have some money saved up. And at the same time, I also do think that there's no better analogy, right? It's just like when they talk about like kids learning how to swim, and it's like, oh yeah, just toss your baby in the water.
You just throw them in the deep end.
Just throw them in the deep end and help it float. I literally believe in that, right? I always tell, there's always a few people like kind of wondering like, okay, like do I want to leave my job for this, right? And I always say that when you do, you have like no safety net or floaty devices, I guess you could say. And your goal is to go ahead and float and just make your way about it, right? And make it happen. So I think when that happened, all of a sudden I just like got on my laptop and just started blasting out emails. I started going networking mixers. I started, putting my name and my company at the time to put myself in a position to get booked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did work with a few companies at first. So like I would reach out to them and said, hey, are you interested in having another DJ on your staff? And thankfully, much props to them, of course, for giving me those opportunities to work with them. And that'll, like typical DJs, when you're doing special event works or when you're working with other companies, you're going to do it for a little bit. And then at some point, you're just going to go ahead and break off and do your own thing, right? That's just kind of how the progression goes. Some people don't. Some people love to kind of just love that security of knowing that they have their gigs lined up. I already knew from pretty much day one. I was like, no.
Meaning like working with a company that like manages your events?
Manage your events.
And that like books you for events
books
type
you,
thing?
Okay, yeah. And you do have to, and then you're essentially an employee, right? So there are levels of like exclusivity to some companies, and some companies are like, no, you're cool, you can work with other people and stuff.
Got you.
But you do have to be an asset to them and do a great job and be able to help them out in the needs where they have multiple events, and you're a DJ that's a good hand as well. So I did that for a little bit, and then I realized like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to kind of go ahead and push forward and be my own DJ. So
okay.
Sorry, what was the original question?
I honestly, I was like, what? I don't even remember. No, it was. How was it when you first started like DJing in Vegas? Was it a slow start or a quick start, or And you pretty much answered it.
Yeah.
Which is great because you gave so much follow up information where I didn't need to ask questions, and I just got to sit here and enjoy the answer.
I am the example of the answering questions yes and. Yeah,
it's perfect.
Always providing a context, sometimes too much. But yeah, I think that first year, like once I got laid off, pretty much immediately, like all these gigs kind of just started lining up.
Yeah.
And then once I started to say, okay, I will no longer take events from I will no longer take contracted events, I should say. So, and that's where opening up the company of Livin Events came about in 2016. So at that time, I did the whole thing, registered. I got the logo and all the stuff like that. I posted it on the Instagram, and then I said, okay, here's me, right? And once you kind of do that, it's just kind of labeling yourself as a business owner, right? And now it's like you've got to go ahead and fend for yourself, right? So now all those other companies, you just got to give them high fives at events, but then at that moment you realize that you're no longer working alongside them and accepting anything from them at that point, right? Because now there's potentials where you could be sending in your inquiries or responses to inquiries alongside them as well.
Oh yeah.
So that's normal. That's kind of the life of a special events DJ, right? You work with one for a while, and then at some point you start to break off, and after that you kind of become your own entity. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. Like doing those few events, I realized I took almost about a year. So I moved to Vegas in 2013. And then I didn't do my first event for almost a year, I think. So it was one of those cases where I was even asking myself, I was like, okay, maybe I was having doubts, but it was just like, I just didn't really go for it. I probably thought, maybe I could just be a hotel concierge. Maybe I'll become a manager. Maybe I have a regular job, right? And I was kind of like thinking that was maybe the route. And then I remember like literally just sitting down after getting that notification that email that I was getting laid off. I was like, Vin, you're a DJ. Like, you were a DJ for like 6 years up until this point, and all of a sudden you decided not to, and you decided not to pursue it, and you spent all this time learning how to put two songs together, learning how to like put gear together, and knowing how to announce people's names, knowing how to present people on the microphone and really excite them, and you're just like kind of letting it sit there, So once I asked myself that, I was like, okay, I got to get going. I got to get moving, right? And I got to like, use this for something. Otherwise, what's happening here, right? Now all of a sudden, I'm stuck in a cubicle, and nothing against it. It's just, when you have this ability to organize and entertain and project and give off energy and create energy, it's it would be a waste to not use it.
Yeah, no, right? It goes to like, what was it all for? What was it all for? Learning all of those talents, all of those skills, honing your craft, just to not use them.
Not use it, yeah.
So no, absolutely.
Yeah, so I remember, I definitely remember like literally sitting at the desk, like, because I had like my 2 weeks left, right? So I was sitting at my desk at the hotel, and I was like, I was kind of just daydreaming, like I've done. I mean, I pretty much checked out of that job months before they actually told me. So, but I was daydreaming. I would spend half the day like organizing my music on the computer that we were using. Like I would hook up a hard drive and. Like in between those emails or in between booking shows for tourists, I would pull up the iTunes, and then I would start like making my DJ playlist.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. That's what happened. It was one of those cases, and then it all kind of lined up, and I feel like that those moments and as mentioned, jumping into the deep end of the pool, like those are all like, it's all signs that it was meant to be, right? Yeah. Because had I just dropped my job, the job technically dropped me, right? and look what happened. It's not even there anymore.
True.
Karma. I was just playing. I was just joking.
But like, it's people always say when they feel like they are meant for this industry or meant for something like this, when you try to leave, the universe will just be like, yeah, no. You know what? He can't be in this job. They're no longer going to hold this spot, because he's got to get his ass back out there into this world and into this industry, because that's where he's meant to be. You know? People always say that, like, where you try to quit and you just get pulled right back in.
That's really fascinating. I love that. There's moments where it's for every performer, for every entertainer, like you're always going to ask yourself, like, okay, am I built for this regular? And I hate using that word regular, but like, am I built for a life where it's a lot more building something for somebody else? But you always are in any field, right? And just even DJs, like for us, our job is to ensure that either our clients are happy, if they want us to be a part of their special events, or if you're working in a social space, okay, we got to make sure that we don't end the night in the red, right? Like we got to make sure that the bar sales are good and whatnot. So these are all like little small things that if you work for the larger picture, it'll work itself out, right? But in regards to, like I had a desk job, that's what it essentially was. My job was to book tickets and tours for everyone that wanted to enjoy Vegas, right? And I still love that aspect. Amongst that job that I really enjoy, like I really appreciate actually was selling tickets to the shows, right? So on the dancer side, I always had to kind of describe certain shows, right? So like for Cirque or for like Absinthe or any of the shows at Planet Hollywood, we would see a few on them, and that was always nice. That's one thing I actually miss about working in hotels. I used to see free shows all the time, and then now I don't get to anymore. So, but I'm sorry. But yeah, like getting to see the shows and then having to describe like what was the difference. I remember tourists would always saying that very derogatorily. Tourists. I would say a hotel guest, I should say. All right, hotel guests would always come up to me and they would ask us like, okay, what are the difference between all the Cirque shows? And I'm like, okay, well, Ka is it's like a storyline based show, right? If you're into like kind of kung fu and action scenes and whatnot, very direct storyline, then you would go with that, right? On the flip side, if you want to see something that is more traditional, then you would probably go and see Mystere, right? And it's such and such, right? Then you had the music themes, right? So like Love and Michael Jackson one. So and so for those, that's like if you were like, are you into the music, right? So now to flip the shows around, then they'll be like, okay, well, we want to laugh. I was like, okay, well, you probably want to go see something that's, and what is your humor, by the way? I was like, we like anything. All right, cool. We'll go see Absinthe and get picked on. And so I would always have a good ear and eyes for a lot of these things, and also admiration. That's kind of how I like to look at, when I go out there, I'm like, oh, these guys and gals are like great performers, and it's always good to sometimes see them out in the world as well, especially at special events, when they do corporate parties and they get to do, they get to jam out and put on some great shows as well. So yeah, that's what I miss about the desk job, but I do not miss the fact that it was a desk job. I do enjoy performing, entertaining myself, and I think that's where a lot of us are. Like sometimes we all go see shows, and we're always thinking like, that should be me, right?
Yeah.
So,
but actually, this might be wrong. I might be assuming here, but I find it cool that you're sharing a lot about this job, because now knowing you and having worked alongside you now, it's cool to see and to hear that's how you had to describe shows, and that's how you had to kind of work in that job, because now that you're on the end of creating these things, now probably gives you a slightly different perspective on it than if you wouldn't have had that job.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's I think seeing the shows itself, trying to sell it, trying to, make commission off of it. That's the thing. Like if you're, and if you are, you got to be a good salesman. You got to be able to understand what these shows are about, and then understand what's the draw on all these, what's the catch, what's the thing, right? So, and back then, a lot of shows were just kind of, you sit down in the theater and you just watch, and then you have like your bases, right? As I said, you have ones that are there to excite you. You have some that are there to be, based on either movies or certain pop culture phenomenons. And then you have just random Vegas stuff as well too, right? Like, things that are kind of typical to Vegas, the showgirls, as well as, the Chippendales and all that good stuff as well. So to be able to experience that as someone that watched it, sold the shows, and then be able to, on the flip side, find ways to find my own avenue as an entertainer too. So, I had aspirations to dance here as well. And as I said, I thought about it, and then I realized like, I think DJing is kind of where I'm at. So, yeah.
In my brain, just looking at it from the outside perspective, it just sounds like a little bit of foreshadowing, But who am I to say? I'm not the universe. But I do have a question.
Sure.
Whenever you started your company as like a sole entity, were you scared at all? Were you to put yourself up against the other DJ companies?
Was I scared?
Or nervous or?
I think no. I've always been fairly confident in my abilities, and that's why this whole thing is hilarious when we talk about our day jobs and stuff like that. Is because I felt like once I had what I needed, right? Like in terms of like equipment, in terms of the people that trust me first to do it. Like once I'm on stage, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that is like the least amount of worries I actually have most of the times. So like in terms of the peers that I have, and as well as trying to put myself and fit in where I can, I already knew I was a little different because, and when I say different, also there are other DJs who fancied in dancing as well, right? So it's not just me. I think there's about a few that are like really good dancers, and I think where I landed was just like I look at these things, weddings and corporate parties and bar mitzvahs and other functions. I walk in there and I do look at it as like a complete production, right? Top to bottom, right? So you have your planners that are there to kind of make sure everything lines up really, really well, right? And you have your decor. They also have a big play in that as well. So they kind of design the whole scape, right? Like a producer. And then after that, you have the smaller details. You have, how it looks, the lighting, the drapes, all this stuff like that. And then, you got to worry about food. You got to put all this stuff together so that when somebody walks in that room, they are there to, spend about 5 to 6 hours with people they don't know. And then also in an environment that, they don't get to experience all the time, all in the name of love or a conference, right? So I've always looked at myself as, as a DJ, as DJs, we're all looked at as like the soundtrack of the evening, right? So, or the score of the movie. So I've always said that matters so much to me. Like a lot of times certain movies are my favorite movies based on the music, right? So when I kind of came into this industry, and especially Vegas, like when I came to Vegas and started watching these shows, I'm like, man, everything's just bigger, everything just flashier, and I love it. I love that whole aspect of it. And I've always felt like, okay, how do I implement this in a way, for my events? And so once I kind of had that outlook, I felt like, okay, this is where I'm different, right? Yes, it's good to be able to confidently speak on the microphone. Yes, it's good to know music theory and being able to put songs together in a smooth way as a DJ and creating moments on the dance floor with music. And then also, yeah, like as a dancer / performer, to add that little quirk in there and be like, okay, this guy isn't just someone that stands behind his DJ booth and just, play music, right? Nothing wrong with that. I've done that more than like half of my events a year. I usually don't do any performing. none that you think of, right? So sometimes I just sit back and I just, they would say, Vin, give me 3 hours of dope music. I'm like, I got you, I can kick back. I can only say 1 or 2 words and I'm good for the night, right? So, but there are like a handful of clients where they're like, Vin, we want the full experience. And then all of a sudden I'm like, grabbing the microphone, like, yeah, let's go. So, and I already knew, sorry about that. It's probably gonna be really loud in the audio when it comes out. But I've always felt like that little, not to say it like, and any other thing, I don't really feel this way. But I feel like when it comes to doing events and going out there, presenting it like a show, presenting it like a performance, that it quality, right? That little thing that you can't quite explain, but it's there. That has always been the calling card, right? I'm terrible with emails. Ask this one over here. But
I waited a month.
You waited a month.
I still love you though.
I'm terrible with administrative work. I am not great at follow up. Even on Instagram, some people will just like message me and inquire about stuff, and I just look at it. I'm just like, I'll get to it. In fitting in with the industry, so I got into like the special events industry immediately as a DJ. So that's like everything else after that. It's all a progress and a process, I should say. So for me, I was like, okay, I want to do weddings. Like I've done weddings for 6 years. I think I could go in here and do a bunch of them, right? So once I opened up the company, I did like this one big networking event that we did, right? Oh, full circle moment, right? And this was in 2016, and they were doing, I think, this event at SLS, right? When it was still known as SLS, now it's Sahara. And then they I had like one or two people say, Vin, I think you would be great for this. And then they allowed me to sponsor it. So I did that. And then the first thing I did was like, I bought all these glow sticks and all the line dances and stuff like that. I just went out there and I did it. I had like this little show, this little dance choreography that I did. When I first came out here, I was known as the DJ that would do the Thriller routine, right? So I would have the jacket. Now, keep in mind, I'm gonna give credit to my best friend because we used to do it a lot in Hawaii. So it's one of those things that I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn this, and then I have the red jacket, the Michael Jackson jacket, and then I would do it as part of the routine during weddings or and whatnot. So once I did that, then they're like, oh, this guy is a lot different than anyone else we have. And so that was kind of the basis for like how I was able to separate myself, right? Again, I don't think I was even the best dancing DJ. Like, I don't think those are, or DJ at all. Like, I just think when you put it all together, you just have this little mold of something completely unique. And I think that I didn't see anybody else have those qualities, and so I had the most confidence, and that's the one thing that anyone would tell you in the industry. They'll tell you that Vin has a lot of confidence once the lights are on and it's time for him to do his thing, right? So everything else, no, not so much. So I'm terrible at emails. As I mentioned, I cannot be administratively in the top even the top 50% of my industry. And that's unfortunate. Imagine if I got back to them emails a lot quicker.
It's funny you say that because one of my last past guests, Tony Coppola, he said something that really sticks with me, and maybe it just stuck with me because of where I'm at in my life right now. But he was like, always find what you can do different than anybody else, and like be confident in that. So your confidence in knowing what you can bring different than everybody else has definitely like been your success,
Absolutely. It's to me, it's just like kind of, I feel like everyone has their own story, and everything that you are, sometimes it's built on the things that experiences you've had in the past, as well as things that you've trained yourself to become better at, right? So even on a personal, like just a person itself, right? You meet someone, you're like, okay, I feel like these are the things you went through as a kid, right? Good or bad, trauma, fun experiences, all these things, it all creates literally the mold of you as you are the person you sit in front of and talk to, right? So on a professional and artistic level, right? Same thing. Like when I see certain dancers or see certain performers and everyone that has the opportunity to display their talents in this wonderful city we call Las Vegas, I always kind of like ask, like, okay, how'd you get here, right? Not directly, just like I kind of look at certain things, like how you how you sing or how you dance and how you even say your name, as I would say. Like these are all like little small things I always try to pick up on. I'm like, okay. So everything that I've went through as a dancer, as a person, as somebody that came out to Las Vegas with all these different reasons to why I listed earlier, personally, as well as figuring out myself and figuring out like, okay, I need to kind of just be my person here and grow and also find some enlightenment and new experiences, right? So all these little things came together, and I realized, okay, I am a very, how should I put it? As I am on stage or when I'm doing an event, the key thing here is that I want to always feel like I'm putting on the best show that night for anything, right? It's just how I look at things. That's the only time I'm actually really competitive. I'm not competitive about a lot of things. I'm not very confident about a lot of things. But I feel like once everything's set up, right? My microphone works, my DJ mixer works, I can go out there and create entertainment out of thin air, right?
Yeah, you can.
I say that, but I'm like, now it's like the humble blushes are coming back. I'm like, no.
I've seen it. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So it's that is the only time. And everything else, I like to think that I live very simply. I like to think that I don't need a lot. I don't need a lot of attention or even people around me, So, when I say introverted, like a lot of times it's a common word that just describe things. But, I truly am, I keep to myself like majority of the time, right? So I've always liked this analogy where when people say like, oh, Vin, do your thing, right? I'm like, all right, cool. So it's like I step into the phone booth as Clark Kent, walk out as Superman, right? Not saying I am Superman, all right, but I am saying that is the analogy of how I perceive all performers, right? Like I love watching dancers and seeing them in a regular setting like this. We're just kicking back, and all of a sudden, boom, makeup goes on, clothes go on, clothes swap out, and all of a sudden they're just like snapping off. I'm like, that's awesome. I love the duality, So I do think there's a duality in as well as the DJ, right? So there's times where I'm kicking back, just do my thing, and there's times where it's like, okay, cool, let's go ahead and really create an experience. So I've always felt like, again, every experience or everything that you've had in the past, every small detail, every training, everything that you've worked on and has created that person that you are today, I think it's a beautiful thing when you kind of figure out how to use it in a professional setting. So
yeah, amen. What's been the most surprising thing you've learned as a DJ in the industry so far?
So I'll go and say this. So now we're going from private events, right? So meaning that I'm hired and I am asked to do this events. I'm asked to do one more time. It's funny, like an MC can't even get his words right.
Me all the time.
Right. Okay. So to answer the question again, edit, read back again. Okay. Surprising thing, right? So the most surprising thing that I've experienced in the DJ world, I think is swapping from special events, private events, weddings, corporate, and then going into the public world, right? So that's like my new thing that it's quite new actually. So I've done this for roughly about, I would say 9 months now. So I kind of had this desire to just go ahead and like, all right, I need to go ahead and I need to see people that don't even care about me really, for the most part. So because with weddings, the clients will be like, okay, we heard about you. The planner recommended us to you. Like, we want you, right? And so at that moment, you've already built the equity up before you even step in the venue. In social side, right? And in social events, clubs, lounges, anything that where it's people are just kind of walking by and they're just kind of like they go into the club and they're going to figure out if they want to enjoy the music or hang back a little bit longer. In that kind of world, it's like you got to earn it from either from the minute they see you or over time when they're just hanging back and drinking, right? So I thought that was surprising. I think it is also surprising in dealing with the politics of it, right? Because I don't really deal with it too much like with weddings in corporate. On that side, I'm already hired. So my job was just to go in there and do a great job. And I'm mostly by myself. I don't have to really deal with like a lot of other people, right? Yeah. So at times, yes, you come together and then sometimes it becomes like a little pageantry and stuff, but very often it doesn't. We kind of just do our own thing and we go home and live our lives that way, right? On the social side, yeah, you're doing gigs with teams of DJs. You're doing it with the venue managers, owners, and stuff like that. People who are there to hire you and schedule you on a timely basis, and you're trying to level up and you're trying to put on the best show that night and hopefully be that manager's favorite DJ, right? Mm-hmm. And so then now you're dealing with like, different personalities. Again, everyone has like different upbringings, right? And you can kind of sense it when you talk to that person, right? Oh, cool. And you can sense if you gel with them or you don't gel with them.
Right.
So that's kind of a new thing to me. That's a surprising thing to me because I feel like if I'm just myself, most people will just end up just being able to either be cool with me or tolerate me, right? But other times you're just like, no, this is just a philosophy in life that's a little different here. Mm-hmm. So that's the surprising part for me is dealing with a lot more personalities nowadays and figuring out, if you can be able to work alongside them, right? Whereas on the other side, I can just, I'm just working with different sectors of the event itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm dealing with other DJs here, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Well, you gotta, you know, sometimes people perceive different communication differently, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's the key thing as well. So other than that, I mean, yeah, everything's cool.
Has there ever been a time since
I feel like I open up a little can of worms here now.
Has there been a time since I'm gonna ask, since you've been in Vegas, that you like kind of just wanted to give up DJing? Like it got so hard or so difficult or so slow that you were kind of like, I'm gonna quit. I want to give up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna say, like, on a personal note, yeah, like I think I was going. I mean, we're all going through stuff, right? Let's be real, right? I'm talking way too much as someone that has gone through a lot of stuff. Okay, sorry. So
That was just your little sigh, and then the smile afterwards.
Okay, let's really get into it. No, no, yeah, no. I had a personal bout, and it was one of those things that, you know, you deal with, and you find your ways to deal with it, right? And I would probably say that it was one of those things that just consumed me, right? And it almost like distracted me from the main goals, the main focuses that I had in life, and also the plot of it all, right? Like, I'm here to create a good life for myself, right? And so when you let these outside forces take over your life, and all of a sudden you wake up only thinking about those things, and you try your best to like, okay, I still gotta put on my pants, I still gotta like go out the door and make it happen for these people, right? So, and there was a really, I would say, like about like a block of time where like I couldn't even really focus like at the events that I was doing, like the DJ gigs I was doing. I was like, no, this is like literally stuck here, and I cannot put on my best foot forward and be able to put on a great show as I would, right? I could fake it, you know. I think we all can, right? Sometimes you're sick, sometimes something happens, and all of a sudden you still got to go out there and you know, provide for a paying audience, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would probably say between, I would say 2017, and it was like a few years of this. So it would be off and on, and then all of a sudden you're just, you know, you're thinking like, okay, maybe I just need to just get away from all this, right? Like, and I thought that was the case too. Like, I thought maybe the product of my environments, I thought maybe I was just surrounded by not so good energy, right? And maybe I just needed to just run away. And I did a lot of that. Like, you know, for me, the one thing I love to do is travel, right? And I think we all love to travel, but I like to travel, like, meaning like I just get in the car and just start driving for 6 hours straight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh yeah, it'll be like, what's Vin doing? Oh, he's in Japan. And then he's like, yeah, I decided to buy a ticket 8 hours ago.
If it wasn't for a big ocean, I probably would drive to Japan instead of flying out there. You know, I don't know. I like to sit in my thoughts. As I said, like anything else, and I spend a lot more time just sitting with my thoughts, you know, and, you know, sometimes it creates clarity, and sometimes I just cloud it up with more. So, and that's kind of what happened. So around that time period, I was just literally going through this weird phase where I just didn't want to do this anymore, right? I didn't do this anymore. Like, I didn't want to DJ. Like, I just felt like it was life was a burden, and then that also become an added burden to everything. So it was, yeah, some dark periods, right? And it affected everything, right? It affected my relationships romantically. It affected the ones that I had, like with my best friends, you know, my mom, you know, my dad, everybody. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't even want to go to this event, right? I don't even want to do this gig. I just screw this client, right?
Yeah.
Never did that. But it's always in my thoughts, and I always wondered, did I need to do something completely different, right? Did I need to just run off and do the whole be a monk thing, right? And just like kind of just go in solidarity and just kind of just isolate.
Right.
That's the easy thing to do, though. That's like the super easy thing to do. And I spent a lot of my life doing that, but then I realized, like, okay, people are here to help. People are here to guide you along the way and be of assistance, right? So and also to kind of give you, like, even on a work way, I'm trying to maybe provide a little bit of clarity from work into what I just mentioned. So most events, I like to just do it by myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most parties, most weddings, I like to just set it up myself. I like to DJ myself. I like to MC myself. I like to tear down by myself, right? So people always say, like, that's a lot of work. That's like, stop being so cheap then, make sure you hire somebody, and these are all things that people have asked me about. And I just say, like, I just rather not deal with people sometimes, right? Even if they're helpful.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things where, as a character trait that I have, where isolationism is so easy for me, I also use it in a work setting too. And so I realized after a while, it's like, okay, we are slathers of meat that eventually will rot and die eventually someday, right? So
what a great statement for a shirt.
Very visceral thought that I just made, right? And as said, I also wanted to talk about this too, is because I love connecting DJs and dancers and stuff like that too as well. But like, I do think that doing something where you have to physically exert yourself, right? And I like to think that as DJs, we don't do it as we don't have to do it as much as dancers. I think so, right? Dancers, everything's aesthetics, everything is movement at 100%, right? Sometimes even more. For us, when we pick music, play music, I think it's a little bit less stressful on our bodies. But with that being said, in terms of setting up, that's where the most of the stress comes from for DJs, right? I've always said that I'll DJ for free. What you're really paying for is for me to carry that speaker inside that room, right? So, in essence, I've still loved to do that because in my ways, I look at it as a workout. I look at it as like me not having to deal with other people, and it's just easier when all you have to do is rely on yourself, right? So it also kind of lines up with like how I think of other DJs, right? As mentioned in the last question when we're talking about like, oh, that was a surprise to me. Well, like, yeah, because now instead of working by myself, I have to work alongside a team. And then now I have to figure out ways to communicate differently to different people, right? I like to think I'm cool with everyone. I always like to say that, hey, if you give me an opportunity, I can be cool with anyone, right? But I know a lot of times this world, especially where it is competitive, where people do want your gig, people do want certain things, and then how they go about it is either they can do it with a smile and stab you in the back, or they can do it directly, and then then you have to deal with that head on as well, right? I typically like to do things on my own, right? So that is like one of those things where, as time went on, I not only did I want to work alone, I wanted to be alone, right? Yeah. I did not even want a partner, a romantic partner. I didn't want any of those things, right? So all of a sudden you just hold yourself up, and at some point now your thoughts start to just, not only does it clutter even more, you start to have more weight going down on your shoulder. And then also, the idea of loneliness. Loneliness, that's a new one. Loneliness. There you go. That's the one that hits. And that becomes the real thing, and now it seeps into other fun stuff such as depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how'd you find your way out of that or through it?
Just literally, I like to think traveling did that, but actually didn't, because I do believe in so many things when it comes to escaping your problems, right? So it helps when you do it the right way. When you just escape. Escapism becomes the thing, right? So I used some of these vehicles to allow myself time to really figure out what matters the most, right? And is realizing that I do have a good 2 handful of people that do care about me, right? And tell me that, hey, you're much better than what you give yourself credit for, right? And you do have value to other people outside of performing. So that was, those are the few things that, as long as they were kind of just on my side and continuously allowing themselves to be available to me, right? Even if I didn't ask for it. Like sometimes I don't need it, right? But they just did it for me because they understand, like, it's not like I never did anything to them directly, so they know that deep down I still have love for every one of them, right? So it was having that support system still, like, literally just like lift me up, like, hey, Vin, you still there, we still got you, right? And it's the realization also as well for me that I have these abilities that it took either by God's, what's the right word for that? I feel like I don't like using God-given ability, because I think a lot of it's still like you earn it. But I do think there's some levels of like some people are just really good with finding the beat, right? But I do think that once I was that 5-year-old kid learning how to do those dance moves and emulating Michael Jackson, I was like, okay, I have something here, right? I understand music. I understand how to move to it. Not everyone does, right? But I do think everyone can learn. So, but I feel like, I was put on this earth to use that for something, right? And as time went on, I was developing it. And then all of a sudden, now I've gotten a certain level of proficiency where it's like, now you can make money from it. It's great. So it's the right people telling me, Vin, snap out of it. It's also me realizing to myself that I am on this earth to provide something of what I have for other people, right? Even if it's just for like a bride and groom to listen to a specific song in a night and be like, Vin played that at the right time at the right moment, right? And that little thing, it allows me some purpose, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's finding your purpose. It's finding the right people to reinforce that purpose on you, right? So for me, I think like what really happened was, I would say, I'm gonna get to the hippie version of me, right? So I remember watching the sunrise. I know, it's like, oh my God, it started with a sunrise.
You just cut the dreads off before you walked in.
I did, yeah. Like, it's only on my shirt from Bob Marley. Anyways, no. I think it was. There's no, like, everyone wants to kind of point to defining moments. I think true growth and change happens over time and happens over like consistent, good habits, right? Like you build these things up, and all of a sudden you become the product of what you are, right? I wish I could be able to describe that better like half an hour ago, but yeah, like I said, your life experiences, everything that you have grown to be, the people you meet, the places you live, the values you accept or reject. And all of a sudden, boom, this is the person that's right in front of you in this solitary second, right? So I already made, specific changes to myself. And then all of a sudden, it was kind of those moments. It was kind of that moment where I sat there, and as the sun was rising, it was like around 6 a.m., right? So as it was rising, and I remember this happened literally almost a year ago. And then I just saw it, and then like literally, one of those moments, tears bursting, crying. You're like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. But the first few thoughts that really came to my mind was like, I need to continuously be just a better person, but also allow myself to even be a better artist, and through an extension of that, allow myself to continuously entertain and allow myself to love this so much that I want to keep doing it, right? And these are all the little things that need to be corrected so that I can do it at the best of my abilities, right? So yeah, there's that.
So when did the idea come to you of rebranding to do more full-scale productions for your events?
It's a great segue question, because it's also going to include that idea as well during that sunrise.
Ooh, how did I know?
How did you know? Yeah.
I was like, a year ago. I remember the idea that was brought to me a year ago.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was, okay, so the reason why it hasn't happened was because, I couldn't get out my own way, right? It was those mental blocks and just things that, like, okay, literally just stopped me from doing it, right? And you can't even think about it. Like, I always wanted to grow the company. I've always wanted to, and by grow, I didn't mean so much to like, okay, I want to do more weddings, or I wanted to do more, more gigs in general. That wasn't the goal for me. The one thing I wanted to do was do more substantial things that displayed, I think, my ability to entertain, but also see it from a grand scale, from a larger platform, right? And being able to work with other pieces, right? So as a DJ, we're kind of confined to, the ability to play music and to talk in the microphone, kind of more or less, right? I add that little dancing thing in there, but that's just kind of like a little paprika on the to add alongside for that sauce, right? So, but I saw a lot of opportunities in being able to collaborate with musicians and other dancers, and being able to kind of create something where if we were to watch a show, like there's a lot more elements to it as opposed to just watching a single focus, right? Mm-hmm. Don't get it twisted. I love the adoration once we get the crowd, right? I love that at the end of the night, I'm there with my clients, right? I'm there by myself for the most part, and I get the solo, I get all the love, right? Mm-hmm. Also brings back to why I like doing this stuff by myself, right? I had the only kid syndrome, based on my dad's side for a little bit, and then my mom. So I was always like my parents' only kid. So there's a lot of that seeps into this conversation and kind of makes sense now, right? So. But I do love that. But I also think that, there is some limitations, visually, I would say, even so that much, right? Like on a visual level, if you watch someone do a solo performance, that person has to be incredibly strong at what they do. Otherwise, it's like, okay, well, you're strong. Maybe your voice isn't as great as this artist, or your dance is great, but how do we know if it's freestyle or if it's choreographed, right? Even if it's as great of a choreography it is, sometimes it has better aesthetics when you have two people doing it alongside with you, right? So I looked at that element, and then I saw like, okay, as a DJ, what can we do to provide something on a visual level that can shock and awe, that can be able to, give some of my clients and the people I work with, the venue managers or the planners that I work with, are like, hey, Vin, what is your next pitch, right? So I can only keep throwing fastballs until and one day that 100 miles per hour turns into about 87, right? As I said, we're slathers of meat. Eventually something slows down, right? So now it's more on me to kind of use more of my mind right now at this point and figure out, okay, these are elements of different things and different aspects of an event, and being able to put it all together. And these are everything at their peak of their powers. They perform at their absolute best, and I can be able to now orchestrate it as opposed to just trying to be all of that in one person, right? So I love the idea of production and producing. Now, keep in mind, it costs some resources. It takes a little bit to put together and have the right people trust you to put it together, right? So that was the thing with changing Livin events into this next project, right? Don't have a name for it yet, but it's meant to be where we create experiences. Yeah, it sounds like the Jet 2 holiday. No, Shane. Hopefully not. And hopefully not in that aspect, though. Hope no disasters, please, no. But if I can just even dwindle it down to like a wedding, right? So it's a lot easier to kind of say that, because weddings are very, it's a thing, right? It's you get hired as a private event DJ, and you do it, it's over, right? Mm-hmm. And typically the client is there, the bride and groom is there just to enjoy their night, really, right? It's like, give me 6 hours, give me good food, the right people in this room, make it look pretty, play good music, let me dance my ass off, right? So that is like the whole basis of it. And I've always said that, okay, I can only play so much music or the same music. I can only give you so much lighting, right? How do I put it together where we can be able to create production and some theatrics, right? And I always ask myself, is that even possible, right? And is it possible to do it in a way where it feels like you're included as opposed to just, I'm just watching you, right? So those are the questions I've always asked myself, and I've always asked, like, how do we do this and not make it so sit and watch, right? So, and they are watching, but I like participatory things. As I mentioned, if I'm an interactive DJ, I want them to be a part of it as the audience, right? So, I want the bride and groom to be a part of it. I want them to be like, hey, we're here too as well, and let's find ways to redirect all this love and energy back to you.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that when the time is right and the resources are there and when I'm willing to pull the trigger on this, I can see so much opportunity starting from the beginning of the day, even at ceremony and cocktail hour, all the way through the last song of the night, right? So now the one thing is the resources, right? Like is a bride and groom willing to pay for dancers? That's the question.
Right.
So, and even corporate events, right? Like even like is a CEO or whoever is managing the party, is that person going to say, okay, we want to hire entertainment? But I think they're more willing to. But at the same time, oh yeah. So, but I thought about like, okay, from like a wedding perspective, like how do we really get to that finish line? Right. Because a lot of times they're going to be like, okay, well, we like entertainment, but we want to not just watch them. Right.
Yeah.
So I always figure intention and being able to put things together and finding ways to, again, redirect all that energy back to the people that are hiring us. Right. So that's where like being immersive, being participatory, right, engaging with them, that all has always been in my wheelhouse. How we are able to execute it, it just kind of depends on what they, what kind of vision they have and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm excited. Like, I think it's funny you have like your notebook of all your ideas, and I wish I could be able to like be more of a writer myself, but I still have those little pages where I have like 6 things that like would be like a fun idea, right? Like this one would be, we would have multiple dancers and then be able to kind of like literally usher things throughout the entire day, right? So that they're not just there to do one act or two performances. They're there to kind of lead you into the next thing. It's one of those things that I love about watching theater shows. I love ones that are fully they're fully in tune with the audience and they're there to kind of grab your hand and take you there, right? And I love that whole thing. So to be able to do at a wedding, I think it'll be really fun. I think it'll be like the next step in all of this, right? As a DJ and as somebody that wants to work with very, very talented performers. So that's kind of like the basis of this new thing, is how do I not just play music, but be able to use music to drive different parts of a program together, right? So I love musicians, of course, as well, right? If there's one thing I wish I could have did, I wish I could be an amazing drummer or something, right? But shout outs to all of those that put their 10,000 hours to doing that. So I would love to work with them and then be able to say, hey, you're an incredible saxophone player or you're an amazing drummer, right? How do I put you in this program instead of us just watching you and dancing alongside you? How do we use you to drive or to mobilize a program, I should say, right? To get to the next thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's always been a magical thing in my mind, right? So like they see something and then there's like something I was like, no, it's not what you really think it is. It's like kind of it's a theater act and being able to use a little bit of smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand and being able to kind of transition them into something else. So that's like my challenge to myself in building up this next company and trying to really see if there's some magic tricks we can pull off.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that project we do. I know we're just we're gonna talk about it in a bit, but
we can talk about it now.
Yeah, let's talk about it now. All right. So I love talking, and clearly there's gonna be parts of this podcast I was like, please edit all that out, please. It's like, because I've just been yapping up in here, yo. All right, cool. So I want to so this one, let's kind of go back and forth, right? So I want to tell you, I'm probably gonna ask you questions. You tell me your thoughts and stuff. Okay. All right. So you and I did a project. Was about 2 weeks ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember speaking with you about a year ago, and we were like, okay, I was like, I want to start doing some stuff where it's just I'm starting to use dancers, right? And start to be able to have them be part of the program and guide us through different parts of it, so that it doesn't just feel like we're just going through the motions, right? So, and I want to find an entertaining way of going about it. And what's more entertaining than people who know how to move and can move people, right? So, I remember asking you, and I remember this kind of happened when I was in Tokyo, right? I was in Tokyo. I was like, okay, I was stressed about this show that we're about to do, and I didn't know how to execute it at all. I was just meaning that like I had it in the back of my brain. I knew exactly what the entire vision, like big vision was, right? But how to actually put it together. And so then
wait, and might I add, this was what, the beginning of August you were in
something
Tokyo?
like that. Yeah. No, it's like end of July or something
End
like
of
that.
July.
Yeah. So to tell you the story, so
and the show was August 20th. That's all I'm going to say.
The show producer, oh man, I was like, I'm about to go into like more like personal, like tribulations type stuff. Anyways, so I'll try to tell this one quickly. Okay, so this is what happened. So the show producer asked me a few months ago, so, would you like to do this industry mixer for all of the wedding professionals of Las Vegas? And then I say, sure. But if I'm going to do this, I really want to, make a dent in it. Like, I don't want to just be in a corner DJing. I just don't want to. I've done that several times already. And that's, that's one of those things where it doesn't do really anything for me, right? Because I could just show up as an attendee, enjoy it myself, say hi to everybody, dance my ass off when whoever DJs it. And I still probably get the same amount of impact of actually sponsoring it. So she asked me, do you want to sponsor it? Do you want to be able to, put on a fun show? And whenever I get asked, I know that when they ask me, they want me to do something interesting, right? So in years past, I would dress up, or I would do like a little dance routine here and there, or I would just be super extra. And all of a sudden they were like, okay, that's why we have Vin here, right, in the industry. So I had that little pressure. I put that on myself actually, of wanting to say, I think I can start working with dancers now at this thing, right? And I told the show producer, planner, I asked her, I was like, hey, these are like 5 ideas that are batshit crazy, and you just tell me if we can do it or not, right? And then she says like, well, I trust you with all of them. I was like, okay, well, thank you. But she went to the committee, came back, and she's like, okay, here's 2 things they really like. They enjoy the VIP presentation, right? The nightclub bottle girls, like, yeah, here's the lights, and here's the big old sign with your name on it. So they like that. They wanted to see if there's anything we could do with that. I was like, okay. The second thing, she said, they actually like this more. I was like, what do you like more? They actually like this whole idea that you're able to have these dancers be included with a bunch of servers that are part of the staff, the actual staff members of this venue, and then be able to snap off and then go off, and they reveal themselves as dancers, right? So I remember I presented that idea because I saw it, and I'm not original. This is not an original idea. Like this, I've seen it before, right? But I've always wondered, could we do this in a corporate event? Could we do this at a wedding? I always wondered, like, could we make this happen? And I know the biggest hurdle was, well, how do you teach people who do not know how to dance, or at least know how to dance professionally, or in a choreography? How do you teach them like how to do stuff in less than 10 minutes, and you're not going to actually rehearse with them? I was like, okay, well, that's a challenge, right? And that's a challenge in my mind, is like, okay, how do we make that happen? Okay, so, but I still see it happening. I saw everything that we did. I literally had that vision. Like, I was like, I see you guys just telling the servers what to do, and then once they leave, you guys do a routine. So that's the only thing that I saw. But how to get there, the details of talking to the servers and telling them 2 or 3 basic instructions, like super basic, like kiddie instructions, right? And make it seem seamless, right? And so that's what I was stressed about. That was the one thing that I was mostly stressed about. Before I went to Tokyo, I called the planner and I was like, I'm freaking out here. I don't know if I could do this, and I'm gonna almost back out now. And she says, okay, there's two things here, Vin. Number one, I either call somebody else, or two, I tell you to snap the fuck out of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, give me a few days. Right. And keep in mind, this call, I revealed probably a good amount of what I revealed here today on this podcast. And then I was kind of just stressed out a little bit about, the pressures. I think this is the first time I ever felt pressure on my shoulders in a long, long time. As I said, confident about a lot of things, right? Once the doors open up, once the lights turn on, once my music is able to play through the speakers, I'm the most confident person in that room. But this moment when I was on that phone call, I was like, I was shriveling up. I was scared. I was afraid. I had anxiety for a full week thinking about it.
Well,
right. And I told the producer about that, and I was like, I don't think I could do this. I literally said that word for word. And then she said that to me. She was like, either this or you do this, right? And then I said, okay, I'll call you back in a few days. And so then, as I was like filled with even more anxiety, more stress, what do? I book a trip to Tokyo. That's how I handle stress, is packing my bags. So anyways, I packed my bags, and then I got to the airport. As I got to the airport, I texted the planner, and I just, for some reason, I don't know what it was. I just said, like, it was almost like good pressure, because if you don't take chances or if you don't take any risk, then there's no growth, obviously. So it's one of those things. I've been doing kind of the same shows for the last 7-8 years. So I was ready to do something else. And this was like, maybe it was a sign. Maybe that pressure and that stress was a sign. I was like, okay, this is probably really uncomfortable for you to even think about. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why you should do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so then it was almost one of those things where it's just kind of like, as I was about to walk into the terminal gates, right? And I just text her. I was like, I'm going to do it, right? Then I get on the plane. I go to Tokyo. I do the whole thing, right? Enjoy a little vacation trip. I came back. And then, sometimes when you do these things, it doesn't really change anything. Like,
nope, you still had the show.
Yeah.
Still had the show.
You still got your issues. Like, when people will travel to escape their problems, I talk about escapism, right? You escape your problems and you end up just bringing your problems with you.
Yep, 100%.
But it was one of those cases where as I traveled back, I realized that maybe through the sheer amount of walking that I was doing out there in Tokyo, or the fact that, I had a chance to kind of just be in my own space, be happy of something new, right? But I think it was one of those calmness that I felt that I was like, okay, I could put it together. I need help. Obviously, I do need help. I do need to speak with somebody and be able to, like, break it all down for me in a really good, in a way that allows me to kind of feel more calm about it, right? So that was the first thing I did. I was like, I need a choreographer. I need someone that can be able to tell me, like, hey, I could take care of this, and this, right? You take care of this, and this, and then we'll put it all together, right? So to share that and be able to text you and be like, Abbie, all right, I have this project, and I need to talk to you. I was like, it's like, I need to talk to you first about it, like, just so that I can figure out if this is something you could do. And then after that, like, you can tell me if this is definitely in your wheelhouse, which obviously it is, right? So then I remember we went through it, and then now you tell me your thoughts, Abbie.
My thoughts are, I got a reel on Instagram that was a video of a DJ with 4 dancers. And I've always told you, whenever you want a dancer, you just let me know, Vin. I'm there. Tell me when and where, and I'm gonna be there. And then I was like, you sent it to me, and it was fun choreo with the DJ. I think he joined in on some stuff too. And I was like, whenever you want, you let me know. And that's how I replied to your reel on Instagram that you sent me. And then you replied, actually, I have something on August 19th or 20th? I think it was August 19th. You're like, I have something on August 19th. Keep in mind, this was like August 2nd that I received this message. And I was like, okay, sweet. Let's chat. And he was like, you were like, can you talk tomorrow? I was like, yep, at this time. That's how I got the message. Which I mean, like, I love it, and it made it fucking happen.
Yeah,
it cracked me up though.
That's a lot of Vinisms for you right there. It's just hitting you up last minute when it feels right.
Over Instagram.
Like, let's do a project.
Well, I mean, like, it's different because you and I are friends.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then we talked on FaceTime, and then we were able to meet in person and go through everything. And it was like, yeah, it was totally more than possible. Easy to do.
Yeah,
I say easy to do. I mean, it was still a lot of work, but it was still like I knew exactly what you needed in order to make it happen.
Yeah, and that's like, to me, I just felt like it was one of those cases where like I just trust. I obviously trust you. Like that's not even a doubt. I just trusted just another thing to happen. To another thing happen for me, right? Where like I usually don't do that, right? I like to kind of just. And it's not so much in a micromanage kind of way. Like, I don't think I'm that type of person. Like, once I do trust you, I'm like, yeah, you just do your thing. And almost like to a degree, you're like, Vin, like, I need some feedback. Like, how do you feel about this, right? And I'm like, no, I feel good. And I'll just go back. I'll just say one or two things that maybe of note. But I love when everyone is so proficient at what they do that I don't have to worry about it, right? In different aspects of things, right? So it's just the respect level that I have for anyone that's just really good at stuff, right? So, like, yeah, no, when I hit you up, I was just like, I knew, and as I said, like, you were the first person I thought about. Yay, yeah. And I just knew, I just felt like, for the few times we were in class, that we took class, and then I just like obviously just watching you dance, watching you move, I'm like, oh no, and I know that when you put your mind into a project and you're able to cover all of my weaknesses in terms of like, being able to just take it head on and not have to, for me to worry about the nitty gritty details. Right. So I'm working on it, but I like to just lay it out for you. And then I like for the artist to be the artist. Right. So it was fun. It was great. It was probably one of my highlights. It is actually probably a highlight of the year, just being able to see that all come together. And to me, I think when you put together whatever story that I've just kind of told you for the last hour or so, it really, for me, allowed me to expand on all the things that I was afraid of, in terms of not being able to trust other people to carry on things that I would like to do, right? Working, collaborating, I've been, even throughout this entire year or so of new discoveries and learning different things, my whole thing was always been like, okay, I need to start working with people, right? Yeah. Like just opening myself up to it, being, even if I have to shoot out the pickup line to other people, like, hey, let's work on something, right? Mm-hmm. And I found a lot of gratification. I don't know, that's not the word actually. Yeah, I guess that is. Yeah, I'm thankful, right? So really, really thankful. And understanding and providing, right? And being able to provide the opportunities, I'm really happy. Like I have no ego about that, really. So like once I see someone else be able to do something and excel at it and be great at it, it made me even more happy, right? So it is not because I provided for them, I just love to see certain ideas come together. And I think that's where, when we came together for that wedding industry event, for me, that was one of those things where it worked out so seamlessly and it was magical, to me. The server idea, like that was the one we talked about earlier, right? I said that I love the idea of just everyone thinking, what's happening here, right? So it was almost like curiosity, right? When I played the song, all the servers came out, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay. At first, what I wanted them to feel was like, this music is a lot louder. It's a little loud for a dinner music, right? What's happening here with that?
Another One Bites the Dust is a little aggressive.
Very aggressive, starts hot, boom, bass line, the most famous bass line in my opinion in all of music. Then Billie Jean right after Below. But when it came out, it came out a really loud volume, and then all of a sudden, I kind of like the way I presented it too. I think I said something to the tune of, our servers are ready to we're ready to serve food, and I think they're ready to serve or something like that. I said something to that degree. There was a slight pause. Then I dropped the song, and all of a sudden, everybody, as you guys all started walking out, and then it was like you were going out in different phases, right? And I could just see everybody's faces, and they're just kind of like looking around, like,
right.
I think something's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't figure out what it was, right? So then, and then describe the what you end up doing, like in terms of like what you taught the servers.
Oh, I mean, like I just made them watch the dancers. It was just like, we move, you move, we clap, you walk. That was the most instruction I pretty much gave them. I told them where to stand and what happened. But it's funny because as soon as we got to the point where everybody left, all the servers left and went back to the back of the house, and even in the video that I got, that someone took from that night, as soon as the dancers stopped in front of that stage from walking at the end of the tables and then turned around and posed, people lost their shit. People were like, oh, and started yelling, and they were like, yes, and they already started clapping. And one person had hit a pose, and they were already phones out, ready to go. Like, they were so excited, which was really cool.
I love it. Yeah, that's that. Again, I think that's what I kind of like told you. Like, that's kind of all the visuals that I wanted. Like 2 or 3, probably like you can less than a handful, right? And I was like, if you can hit these marks, then I have a feeling this is going to be really, this is going to go over really well. So. And I love the choreography. I love what you end up doing for, you know, the piece. It was like, it was just, everyone just snapped off. I loved it. Like, and I watched the video back again. And when I was watching all these servers come out first, like, it's funny, some of them were like kind of bopping their heads.
Oh my gosh, there was a few of them that were getting so into the music. It was so cute.
Yeah, they're getting into it. I loved it. And it's, again, you gave 1 or 2 instructions, or 2 instructions or 2 or 3, I should say. And for them to be like so open to the idea, I mean, we were there, you know, I was there kind of watching you direct them a few minutes beforehand before we opened up the doors. And yeah, maybe they had a few questions and they were kind of wondering what's happening here, but it's simplifying it, right? But through the simplification of it, to see how powerful it was for those little small movements, right? So like dropping the plates, turning around, walking on, right? All those little things. You do it to music and you do it with intent, and you're able to give them the reason why you're doing it, right? The reason why is because, well, we want to serve dinner, but we don't want to just serve dinner. Like, we want to entertain you while we do it, right? And so here's the way to do it. So at first, yeah, as everybody's kind of like looking around, or like, okay, these servers are going out here. It looks like they're dancing it looks like they're walking on beat, number one, which I thought was awesome. Some of them were like just bouncing around. And then after that, the music is a lot louder than usual, right? And so as they were walking back, and then I think they started noticing 1 or 2 dancers, the dancers that we have, right? They started to kind of like slowly kind of walk in place. I thought it was really cool. If you watched the video, hopefully we'll play some clips from the video in this podcast as well. But I thought it was really cool when some of the servers, the staff servers, were kind of still like hanging around, right? They didn't leave yet. They were like kind of still like, they just about to walk off, but they didn't quite get off the dance floor, or at least the serving space in time. But they just left. And then as that happened, the first dancer snapped around, right? Turned around. So I thought it was kind of magical in that aspect, because I still wanted like to feel like they would ask the question, who are the performers here, right? I think in their mind, they felt like somebody was, right? They felt like something's happening.
Well, yeah, you don't just, I don't know. It seemed a little too placed.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what the average person thinks. I'm not just, you know.
No. I think they, again, it's one of those things, they felt like something happening. Maybe somebody would come out and start dancing, but I didn't want that. I didn't want anything to feel obvious, right? I wanted to, you know,
right.
You know, it's funny, I might have missed out on the whole flash mob craze, meaning that like I just didn't really care too much about it. When I saw it, I started seeing flash mobs everywhere. And they started calling it that, but I thought it was a little bit more than that. I think it was a little bit more, you know, I guess you could say, I like to call it an immersive experience, right? Where it's a dance show, but it's all meant to be part of what's happening in the program itself. So once that all kind of like started unfolding, and then yes, everybody went batshit crazy, and it was awesome. And I love that it kind of just happened out of nowhere. Then everybody had their attention, and I think the best thing about it, for like as a viewer, just me on stage just watching everybody dance, was like, okay, now expect a lot of different things to happen now, right?
Yeah.
So
No, it sets the tone for the whole event.
absolutely, so that was like, that was the highlight. I'm still getting a lot of people that message me about it and say like that was really cool. Yeah, so shout out to Abbie for the great choreography.
Oh, thank you. I was, I'm honored to have been trusted with it.
Shout out to Mariah, Chase, Jaden.
Yes, you
killed
guys are
it,
rock stars.
smashed it. So
no, I appreciate that because it's I probably wouldn't have been able to do that a year ago. So I think it all, not only in timing, probably worked well for you, but definitely for me too. So yeah,
no, it's I told this to my best friend as well, like a few days ago. I was like, obviously could I have done this sooner? Yeah, like this could have been easy, write it on a piece of paper and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
But reverting back to a few earlier topics, like my mind was not ready for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like just to even wrap my mind around it and be able to say, okay, let's put this together.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wouldn't have been the right person at that time for that.
Amen.
Right? So those times where you asked me if I almost wanted to quit and back away, yeah. Even if a client paid me to be like, hey, I wanted to do like these things, make it happen, and around that time, I would have literally been like, nah, way over my head.
Yeah. But everything happens, exactly when it's meant.
Yeah, it's all meant to. Yeah, so then that's why like this was the way it happened was perfect actually, because for the first time in ever, I would say, first time ever, I was like, okay, let's put on my thinking cap and really put together things that I think would shake things up a little bit, right? So yeah, I think it all ended up working itself out. So
amen. And now you're on to evolving the company, or evolving into a new company, or just evolving.
Just evolving.
What you can, who you are, who you present yourself as, and what you can bring to the world.
Absolutely, yeah. It's evolving is beautiful. Like I guess, yeah, when you're able to do so and kind of shed off some of the old
mm-hmm.
shells and skins of yourself, and then all of a sudden now you wake up as this new person and new professional as well. So that's kind of why I think it's gonna be amazing. So
amen.
Looking forward to it.
And with that, you can follow Vin at the handles in the description box.
Somewhere here.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you for having me, Abbie. Behind the curtain. Or beyond the curtain?
Before.
All right, we'll do it one more time. Thank you for having me, Abbie, before the curtain.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Before the Curtain. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever it is you listen to the podcast. We love to hear your virtual round of applause. If you know of a production or artist that deserves to have their story told, send us an email or message us on Instagram by clicking the link in the description.